Hi, this is Denise LaRoe from the MSK Quilters Guild. I am co-vice president along with Diane Ayotte in charge of a number of things, but one of them is the Raffle Quilt behind me and also getting charity quilts made by members to be distributed to the Pass Along Project. If you want to know more about the Pass Along Project, I will link a description in the making of this quilt and a short video about what they do for the children that are in need. Basically, they provide clothing and packets of necessities for children that are removed from a home in an emergency situation. We are trying to get as many quilts as possible to go along with those packets. And so far we've donated close to 50 different size quilts for all ages and gender for their distribution. But at this time, we would like to have another packet or bag full of quilts going to them before the holiday season. So I'm asking members, if you have a quilt top that needs to be quilted, if you have a project started, if you have a quilt that you forgot to bring, please, in the next 2 weeks, week and a half or so, finish the quilt and bring it into the November general meeting. That way we will have an additional amount to give to them during the holiday season. This is the time of year that everybody needs a warm hug, be it physically with a quilt or emotionally. So I'm asking all members now and after, but specifically now, to bring their quilts completed so that we can get them to the children. The children need them, and sitting on a shelf in your work in progress bin is not getting it to them. So I'm in the process of finishing up a couple that I started. I made 2, and this video will show you how quickly you can get a baby size quilt done in relatively short amount of time. This video shows how you can do a quilt in a day. Yes, the Mary Ellen Burns quilt in a day was not quite a day, maybe a day for the top, but this quilt, you can cut it, you can applique, you can piece it, you can baste it, quilt it, and bind it in a day. I'm already choked up. But anyway, just saying that if you follow along, I have timestamps on everything that I've done, proving that if I can do it, you can do it. And I even managed to, have a couple of Jack the Ripper moments, which are not on video. But anyway, I hope you follow along. There is a place where I stop, again, like an intermission, where I show you everything that I've done, or tell you everything that I've done with the amount of time I spent doing it. And then after that is a second quilt I've made using the same pattern, a little bit of different applique in the middle. Yes, there's applique. God forbid. But it's easy, it's simple, it's quick. You can do this. Machine quilting, you can do this. Everybody can do this. And it'll benefit the children. The children don't judge. They want something warm. They will get warmth with these. So if you want to help me out, Diane and I would greatly appreciate bringing quilts in at the November meeting. We will be there. I will not be at the December meeting because generally I'm busy at that time. Everybody's busy at that time. But it would be nice if we could get them in the November meeting. November meeting is also going to be the sign up for the quilt that I'm going to show. And this is the pattern provided by All People Quilt. I will link on the Facebook page the applique diagrams or drawings that I found, and I will link the All People Quilt pattern. It's a free pattern that we did get permission to use at our class. It's a sewing session that will be held in February. So if you want to make them ahead of time, great. They're a great quilt to make if you need something in a hurry. God knows we need something in a hurry often. We've forgotten something or some baby shower, and this would be a great thing to do. So I hope you follow along, see the quilt, sign up for the sew along at the November general meeting, bring those completed quilts to the November general meeting so that they can be distributed this year. And then we'll have a drive after the February class to finish off our year, our tenure, I should say, as vice president so we can hand off more quilts towards the end of the season, which would be, May, April, May. So I'm hoping that you'll hurry up, go in your closet, go in that shelf that has all those quilts stacked up and saying, oh, what am I going to do with those? Now you know what to do with them. Sew those suckers up. Get a machine quilted, get them bound. Machine binding, that's what I did. It's done, it's quick. Less than 6 hours for a whole quilt. Not even a day. 6 hours or less. You can do it. We are all counting on you. Bring your quilts, sign up at November meeting. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Diane and I appreciate it. And the kids, even though they won't know you, will really appreciate it too. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is a day of charity. So I found these fabrics, these three here, through Pat Grandmason's bundle that she gave me. This is a scrap piece that I found where I was testing crayon, or I should say pencil applique, which didn't turn out very good on the green, so we bagged that idea, but it's a piece big enough for what I need. This is the pattern that we got from allpeoplequilt.com. It's a free pattern. You can download it yourself and make the quilt. But I thought a little video explaining my process and how quickly it can go to make a beautiful baby quilt. Because I don't know who's going to get this quilt, I can't put an initial. They use B for baby, but I have been known to put, Mickey ears, a pirate head, anything, any initial that I know that's going to be for the baby. But since this is going to an undisclosed recipient, I thought something generic like a star would be beneficial. I mean, if it's a girly quilt, you can put a heart, but a star can be for anybody. So we're going to start with a star, and this is on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that I printed, and it will fit in this section right here. So this piece is cut 8.5 by 10.5, so this will more than likely fit perfectly in there. And if not, well, it will be on the outside. We'll engage the sashing. So they do have it, for a boy or a girl, but really this will be for either. And so let's get started. I'm going to start cutting, and then I'm going to see how long it takes me to make this quilt. But it goes rather quickly, and of course, if you don't make a mistake. But I really love this pattern, and I hope that more people will come and enjoy a day of sewing using this pattern, the 3-yard quilt pattern, or any pattern that you want. It'll be a fun time in February at our guild. So I used a little spray stitch on the back to give it a little stability, and some on here too. Then I traced it onto the fusible. I don't know if you can see the shiny. Yeah, you can see it a little bit. It's shiny. So I marked my centers so that I could kind of get an idea of where it's going to be, end up. So I want enough room, on the top and the bottom, have this centered and have that centered so that there's enough room for a seam here and there, and there's plenty here. So then I'm going to fuse it down, and then I'm just going to do a straight stitch all the way around. Now, we can do fancy stitches if you want, but if you have a featherweight or any kind of machine that doesn't have those fancy stitches, or you choose not to do that, I have done, a tight, regular straight stitch all the way around. Worked fine, and it'll be nice and strong. So that's what's next. Fuse and stitch. All right, it's all stitched down. I used black thread. I had this green, and I thought, well, if I screw up, it's going to really show. So the black kind of blended in, and if you can see, it's just a straight stitch all the way around here and here. Nothing fancy, but it'll be very sturdy between the fusing and the stitching. So on to piecing now. Applique is done. That didn't take long. I lay out my design before sewing it together to make sure all the parts go where they're supposed to. Here's the quilt top before borders on the design wall. And now I've added borders to all sides. This is the time it took to cut the pieces, applique, and piece the quilt top together. 2 hours, 21 minutes, 48 seconds. Here we're back at the kitchen counter, working on the backing. So I pieced some parts of it to fix it and fit it in here. And I'm in the process of figuring out the best way to lay it out so that I don't waste too much fabric. It's probably the worst part of a quilt for me is figuring out the backing, because I'm very math challenged, and if I have a problem, I just cut more fabric. So that's kind of like how I feel I'm going to do the back. I have more than enough, so I use that. But I like this fabric. I know it's kind of crazy, it's clownish, but it really has a lot of colors and can be used in so many ways. So I like to preserve that part of it. But I'll use this and that to make the back, and then it's quilting. So here we are, we have our batting. Now, I made these borders 4 inches. I think I will start making them, at least while I'm using this batting, 3.5 inches as the pattern calls for. Because if I do it this way, this is a double layer, and I'll have enough on either side if I have a little bit less all the way around. So I'm going to try and work my magic with what I have here, because batting is expensive, and I'm hoping that I can get this to fit properly on this quilt. But you know, I have been known to cut a border to make it fit, so that might happen, because this would be a lot more economical if I can get out of this width here 2 quilts done. So we'll see. We either will make it fit or we'll cut it to make it fit. It took me about 12 minutes to piece this and press it. So it's on my design wall, which is just a Halloween vinyl tablecloth reversed, so the flannel is on the outside. Nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. So I'm hoping that I have some 505 basting spray, because that would be a lot faster than pin basting, and everything is about, you know, use of time. So I'm going to try not pin basting, maybe a tiny bit, but I'm going to see if I can spray baste the batting onto that and then the quilt top onto that, because they all get washed anyway, so all of that spray baste will be gone when I'm done. So finally, I got it done. The worst part of the whole quilt process. Well, I didn't have to trim it, and it fits, so that batting is perfect for this quilt. My edges are a little bit big, but that's okay. So it fits. So now I'm going to spray baste the quilt to the batting. The batting has already been spray basted to the backing, and it's holding up pretty good on that flannel tablecloth. So there's a plus. So now I'm going to spray baste the batting and stick the quilt on, and I'll put a few pins in for good measure, but I won't be pin basting the whole darn thing like I usually do. What is that? Oh, it's a little bit of a pookie. We'll quilt that out. So there we go. Kind of excited. It worked out well. My math is not as bad as I thought it was, or I'm very lucky. All right, so these are the smaller puzzle pieces, and as I go to a bigger area, the puzzle pieces get progressively bigger. Now it's time for me to stop. I'm going to take a time stamp and figure out how long it took me to get to this point. So this morning I have made my quilt backing. I actually have made binding for 2 quilts. Well, cut the binding. I haven't made the binding yet. And then I've layered it, spray basted, and ditch quilted it, and then started the free motion quilting. So I can't find all my gloves, so I use these little rubber things that I got somewhere, and then I have one glove. So all my really machine quilting supplies are in the other room with my bigger machine. So make do. But my hands are too dry and slippery to move this quilt, so I needed my rubber back gloves from Lowe's. These are gardening gloves, and these are little pieces that I had bought before for my left hand. So I've gotten quite a bit done. I don't know how long I've been working at it, but it's now around 10:15, and I need a cup of coffee. So I'm going to stop for now. Make the backing, assemble, start the process of machine quilting, 1 hour and 33 minutes. Well, it is now the next morning. I've had a busy night. So I think I'm going to take a little bit of time and do puzzle pieces, big puzzle pieces on this section, and then we'll move over. So I try to do like a section at a time. I'm going to do puzzle pieces over here. I'm not going to do anything different on the border. We're just going to get it down and dirty, get it done. So quick puzzle pieces. It's been stitched on the edge so that, you know, the backing doesn't flip over and I have another mess on my hands. So we'll see. I'll set the timer and get going. So here we are, all quilted before a morning coffee, and it took me 31 minutes to quilt this little quilt. So it can be done quickly if you just mosey along with those curvy pieces. And it's done. Next up is binding. That will be done by machine also because I want it strong and I want it quick. I love the hand stitching of a binding, but where we don't know how many children are going to play tug of war with this, it's a good idea to have everything pretty sturdy. So there you go. It only took 31 minutes to quilt this quilt. It's not difficult. It's not time consuming. It's quick and easy. Let me be clear on this. I finished quilting this quilt in 31 minutes. It is small, it is easy to do, but I had already ditch quilted it and started the quilting process. I don't have any video of making the binding and attaching it, but it did take me 1 hour and 3 minutes to do the front and the back. Okay, before you go to the next section, I'm just going to give you the time so that if you want to stop here, you can, or you can go on to see my fancy quilting and the other quilt. At the very end, I will show you the 2 completed tops so you can see the whole thing. Also, I'm going to link the pattern in the Facebook group page, and then I have the, where did I put them? These here. This piece, and then oops, that piece, so that if you want to, you know, make them on your own, you'll have this option too. So they'll be in the files on the Facebook page so that you can, you know, print them off yourself and use them to applique if you want. Okay, so here we go with the times. I was a little off, but not by much. So to cut the fabric for the quilt, applique and stitch the applique onto that rectangle and piece the quilt top together, it took 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 48 seconds. Now in my totals, I did not include the seconds part, but close enough. To make the backing, layer and spray based, begin the machine quilting process because I did the quilting on the star, around the star, and I ditch quilted all around the sashing. And then I stopped because I needed coffee and I needed to rest my back. So that took 1 hour and 33 minutes. To finish machine quilting the remaining amount on that quilt took 31 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, you got to understand that this is so quick. So if you're not finishing your quilts yourself, you're wasting time and money. Finish those quilts. So, and then making the binding, which I made the binding for the 2 quilts, the green one with the star and then the pink one that follows. To make the binding and attach it to one of the quilts, and then I flipped it over and stitched it by machine. That took 1 hour and 3 minutes. So a total of 5 hours and 28 minutes. Now if I add up the seconds, which I did not, it might come up to 5 hours and 30 minutes, which would be about right with my guesstimation of 5.5 hours. So it can be done. So follow along if you want on the pink quilt, but that's it for today. Please sign up for the Charity Quilt Sew Day at the November General Meeting. Please bring your charity quilts with you so that you can get a raffle ticket for that quilt. And I'm hoping to see all of you with your, and you know what? If you bring the quilt for the general meeting, bring it up to show and tell. It'll inspire others to do theirs. Thank you so much. We all appreciate it. Bye. Okay, we interrupt our regularly scheduled program to show you a different version. So follow along after I stop talking and see a different version of how I did this. Now, if you look, I have the heart that's kind of poofy. We have some fancy quilting, which are feathers. And this is another take on quilting from the back. So what I did was marked my spaces that by ditch quilting on the front, and then once I knew where I was in the process, I flipped it over, drew some hearts here and there, and quilted them, and then added the puzzle pieces in with it. So follow along to see how I did the trapunto, my feeble attempts at feathering, and making a different look for the same type of quilt. All right, thank you. Next step in the quilting process will be this girly type quilt. And to make something a little bit more fun, I'm going to try that trapunto effect. I don't think I've ever done this. I have done trapunto by stuffing it from the back and stitching it up, but I thought I would take some scrap batting because everybody has scrap batting hanging around. And I'm going to put a couple of layers on the back of this light pink section, and I'm just going to stitch around the heart on the edge, outside edge. And then I'm going to remove the batting from the excess, and then I'm going to layer it and quilt it with another layer of batting. So there'll be 3 layers of batting in the heart. And I think that if you want to try something new, a new stitch, a new technique, put it on a baby quilt. If it's strong enough, which this will be, it's a great way to try it out. And babies don't judge. They just want to pee and poop on it. Maybe spit up a little bit. So this will be a good way to try out that technique, see if it works, and maybe I'll put it someplace else. But for now, we're going to start with the heart and go from there. All right, here it is, pin basted. I'm covering now this is the back of the quilt and just the 2 layers of batting. That's what I'm going to sew first. Then I'll trim it away, and then we'll layer it to make the quilt sandwich for the whole thing. So there, you see there's just a little bit of, gap there, but that doesn't matter because we only care about the heart section. So whatever piece you have to cover this section and a little more to pin it is all you need to get the trapunto going. Next up, I'm going to carefully stitch along the way here on the machine. All right, I've stitched it. I don't know if you can see it just along. Yeah, you can see there where I went into the pink, but just along the edge. And for this, I just use a straight stitch and my regular stitch from the machine. Nothing fancy because it doesn't need to be seen. And the regular foot was fine because this is such a gentle curve, and it's easy to go around. You just maneuver a little bit. Now, this is what it looks like on the back, if you can see carefully here. Oof. There's the stitching. Now, I'm going to cut away all of this, and so that this is the only part that will be puffed. So I have my scissors. I'm making a cup of coffee because I haven't had one yet this morning, and I'm going to clip this away and get the top ready for basting and machine quilting. Not sure if we're going to do what we did the last time, the large puzzle pieces. I have an idea because it's a heart, and I'm going to put hearts in here. But, drawing hearts on this dark fabric is kind of hard sometimes. So we'll see how it goes. I might do it on the back. I have been known to quilt from the back. We'll see. So as I said, a baby quilt is a perfect excuse to try something new. So I'm going to try feathering this. And I draw it out because I am not really good at winging it. And as you can see, it's a good thing because up here, I didn't like the way it was turning out. So I'm going to have to devise something here. But the great thing about this blue pen is that it washes out with water. So I think I might do a little more here. And then maybe just do a loop here, a big loop. And then go there. I'm not sure, but we'll see. But this will dry while I'm getting the backing ready. But hey, it's a good start. I think it looks pretty good. Once it's stitched out in a light color thread, nothing too drastic here, and then maybe go around another time, highlight it a little bit or outline it. That'll press it down and puff this up a little more. So, hey, why not? As I said, kids don't care. So, experiment. I have layered the backing, the batting, and the quilt top. I've ditch quilted using my favorite stitch on my Janome with some variegated thread. And if you can see a little bit, it is a little puffy. I think maybe I should have used a higher loft batting to make it really puff up, but I'm hoping that my attempts at feathering around it will make it puff up a little more. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do here, but I think in this section, I'm just going to echo out rather than the puzzle pieces. But, you never know what happens when I start quilting. Things change. So that's how I'm starting for today. It is a little poofy, so it's nice. I'm going to change my foot to a machine quilting foot. This is my even feed foot for that ditch quilting. And I also, if you look here, I also did the perimeter of the quilt with a regular basting stitch. And I cut away some of it. By cutting away all of it on the last quilt, it really made it hard for me to, handle the edges when I was quilting over here. So I left a little more here, but I just don't like it so that it can flop over. So this is nice and sturdy like this, and then I'll just trim it after I put the binding on. So on to feathering. Who knows what's going to happen? This may be a total waste of time and I'll end up ripping it out, but you know what? No pain, no gain. You got to try it. And a baby quilt. They don't care. It'll be good, she said hopefully. If you could see, it is a little puffy. I did the feathering, and I think once I remove those blue marks, it'll look a lot better. And all I did was some little bit of outline. It's not the best outline in the world, but hey. All right, so let's see how this looks. Ooh, does not look nice, huh? If you don't see where I stitched it, so there you go. It doesn't look too bad. Oh, there's some cat hair there. Oh, that's a surprise, isn't it? Get that out. So there, it's not bad. Good place to practice on a baby quilt. So now, ooh, hopefully this doesn't run. So now I'm going to do, I think I'm going to try doing a heart motif on the back of the quilt, because it'll be easy to draw because the back of the quilt is this lovely, light color. So if I use my blue marker and make hearts here and there, I'll quilt the hearts in this section from the back. Always something new to learn. We'll see how that goes. Again, there's always a ripping out if need be. So I got my gloves, my newer gloves that don't shed that I bought from Lowe's. These are the garden gloves that I use. And I made myself sort of a freeform heart. I have my blue pencil because when I started to do it on my own, it wasn't coming out so hot. So I figured if I take freezer paper, fold it together so there's two layers, the shiny side together, and I press it so they stick together. And then I made my heart, cut it out. So it's a little bit stable and good enough for a template for the quilt. So I will start. I have my lines over here. That's my buffering area. And then I'll start putting hearts in here. Not that many, but just a few to make it interesting rather than just puzzle pieces. So again, another experiment. All right, so I quilted it from the back. And I always do one and double check my tension. And it's a whole symphony of, speed, hand movement, whatever. And hopefully, you don't screw it up, because sometimes I have longer stitches, but this little foot, this little gliding foot works really well. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. There it is. It just kind of glides along. It's lovely. So anyway, I checked the tension and, oh, it looks pretty good. So I will do a few more hearts, and then I'll loop them around and connect the tissue just to get it pretty. They'll be random and different angles and sizes, not sizes, but in different angles, and then a loop around to meet them all. So now I'll draw my hearts and then loop them all and can continue on to the rest of the quilt. So this section has all been quilted. These blue lines are where I've quilted already. Now, the next section is the upper section. So this is like a registration mark for me. This is the upper section where you see the squiggly lines. This is so that I don't cross over. So I just use the blue marker to mark this quarter of the quilt. So I have my hearts marked here. There's 3 hearts. Yeah, 3 hearts that I've marked. And I'm going to quilt those and then do the squiggly lines. But knowing that I don't have to go beyond these lines because this has already been quilted. So this is the 3rd section, and then I'll mark the hearts on the 4th section, and then we'll be done. It goes rather quickly. The hearts do take a little longer than just all the puzzle pieces, but for something charming and a little different, and to practice that machine quilting, we all need a little practice. So this is my way of doing it from the back. I have a video about machine quilting from the back using the lines of the fabric, if you want to check that out on YouTube also. But it's I don't want to say it's easier, but it's a little less stressful if I can mark something easily. This would be a little bit darker and hard to mark. This makes it much easier. And if I'm washing it anyway, these blue lines will disappear. In the home stretch, applying the binding by machine, we'll flip it to the back and stitch it from the front to tack it down in the back. So it'll be completely done by machine. Just so you know, I did all my quilting on my domestic machine, my Janome 7700. So it was pieced and quilted on the machine. I did do, a little bit of fancy heart work. And then also, if you look, there it is. Let me see if I can get it. My little feathering I did around my heart. It's not great, but it looks pretty good. So I'm wearing my glove because my hands are so dry, and this helps me grip the quilt as it's going through the machine. So my other hand will have no glove, but it's kind of like the Michael Jackson thing with one glove, only mine's black and a garden glove. So here we go, finishing another quilt for charity. Makes me feel good.